Think of the Old West, and instantly, your mind will project the classic scenes of cinema. That dirt road lined with wooden facades, cowboys with fixed gazes walking under the sun, and the constant swinging of the doors of a noisy saloon. We imagine a place where whiskey flows freely, poker always ends in chaos, and the sheriff, with his shining star, settles everything in an epic noon duel. This is the legend Hollywood sold perfectly. A fiction that shines on screens, but masks the brutal truth of the American frontier. The real towns were improvised settings, marked by mud, unbearable stench, and constant disorder. They were places where survival was a daily challenge, justice was a vague concept, and epidemics were far more lethal than any revolver. Even so, these settlements overflowed with people willing to risk everything for a piece of land or a nugget of gold. In today's video, we're going to deconstruct the myth of the Wild West and reveal the hidden, visceral side of what life was actually like in a real Old West town. Get ready to discover that reality was far less glamorous and far more shocking than movies make it seem. Western towns were not born from careful planning, but from explosions of opportunity. All it took was someone discovering gold, silver, or oil for thousands of people to rush to that location. These settlements were known as boomtowns. A classic example was Virginia City in Nevada. After the discovery of the Comstock Lode in 1859, the region, which had only a few improvised cabins, turned into a metropolis of 25,000 inhabitants in less than 10 years. But just as quickly as they appeared, they also vanished. When the mine dried up, many left, abandoning true ghost towns behind. It's estimated that today there are more than 3,800 ghost towns scattered across the American West. These places emerged without planned streets, without schools, without churches, without courts. Order came later, and only if the town survived long enough. At first, there were tents, wooden shacks, and dirt everywhere. Hollywood turned the main street into a stage for duels, but in real life it was almost impassable. In the summer, dust rose in suffocating clouds. In the winter, mud swallowed boots up to the knees. Horses, wagons, and stagecoaches moved constantly, and each animal left behind pounds of manure. In large towns like Dodge City, hundreds of tons of horse waste accumulated every year. This attracted rats, flies, and disease. Residents complained in local newspapers, like the Dodge City Times, asking city officials to do something. But in general, filth was just part of everyday life. If you close your eyes and imagine an Old West street, the smell wouldn't be whiskey or cigars. It would be dust, sweat, mud, and manure. Movies sold us the idea that every town had an incorruptible sheriff ready to keep order. Reality was much more chaotic. Many towns initially had no police at all. Justice was carried out by vigilantes, armed groups of citizens who judged and punished however they saw fit. That meant public hangings, improvised jails, and summary trials. Even when there was a sheriff, he wasn't necessarily a hero. Many were just as corrupt as the criminals they were supposed to arrest. Some were in the pockets of saloon and brothel owners, and the famous noon duels, they almost never happened. Most deaths occurred in ambushes, shots in the back, or bar fights. A study by historian Robert Dykstra shows that homicide rates in towns like Dodge City and Abilene were high, but still lower than in New York at the same time. The difference was that in the West, violence was more visible, more dramatic. The saloon was the heart of any town. It wasn't just a bar, it was also a hotel, restaurant, gambling house, post office, and often a brothel. It was where deals were made, elections decided, and fights broke out almost every night. The most common game was poker, often manipulated by professional cheaters. Life outside the saloons was harsh. Men worked in dangerous mines, on endless railroads, or herding cattle in exhausting conditions. Women ran boarding houses, sewed, cooked for dozens of workers, and often had to work in brothels, since few professions were open to them. Writer Oscar Wilde, when visiting Western towns in 1882, described saloons as stages of human greed, where every glass of whiskey revealed a story of failure or ambition. The invisible enemy, danger in the Old West, didn't come only from guns. Without basic sanitation, towns became breeding grounds for disease. Garbage was thrown into the streets, mixed with horse manure. Clean water was scarce and often contaminated. Epidemics of cholera, tuberculosis, and smallpox were common. In towns like Deadwood, cemeteries grew faster than the town itself. Tuberculosis, known at the time as consumption, was almost a death sentence. In addition, fires were frequent. Buildings were made of wood, and a single candle or poorly extinguished cigar could destroy an entire town in just a few hours. Faced with so much filth, violence, and death, why did anyone stay? The answer is simple: hope. The West was a place where anyone could try to start over. Immigrants, orphans, bankrupt men, freed former slaves, all saw the frontier as a chance to change their lives. Some got rich: saloon owners, merchants, lucky miners. Others merely survived. But for all of them, there was a sense of freedom, that there was no system controlling everything. It was a risky life, yes, but for many, better than staying behind. Old West towns were far from the flawless, heroic image that movies usually project. In reality, they were improvised, foul-smelling, and extremely dangerous places, yet filled with the energy of ambition and new beginnings. They were lands of extremes, where a man could achieve financial glory or meet a sudden, violent end. The next time you see a Western and notice a sheriff in a duel on a perfectly clean street, remember, the real frontier was far harsher, deeply human, and not romantic at all. Understanding that chaos is what allows us to see the true face of those who tried to tame the wilderness. And now I ask you, would you have the courage to live in a real Old West town? I'll see you in the next video here on the channel.